This video is part of a series for Everyday Feminism, a website dedicated to helping you stand up to and break down everyday oppression. Do you have a friend, family member, coworker, or partner suffering from depression? If you're a person living on this planet, then chances are you do. You might even be one of the 121 million people across the globe living with depression and are simply fed up with non-mentally ill people giving you less than helpful advice. That's not to say that these problematic comments and generally unasked for pieces of advice come from a place of malice or bad intentions. These comments are often made out of concern for a depressed individual and stem from a lack of understanding. Even as a person who suffers from depression, I'm sure I've unintentionally said a few of these things myself. Unfortunately, no matter what the intent of the comment is, it can often end up doing much more harm than good. Which is why I turned to Tumblr and asked fellow depressed people about the comments they've received from acquaintances that they've found particularly troublesome. I received over 200 messages and replies, and as I went through them all, it was fairly easy to spot trends in their responses. So without further ado, here are 12 things not to say to people with depression and why. The first category of inappropriate comments to say to a person with depression are remarks that minimize their mental illness. Common examples of this are phrases like, "But you always seem so happy." Not all symptoms of depression manifest themselves as sadness. Also, plenty of people are capable of putting on a happy face and internalizing their sadness because that's just what mentally ill people are forced to do to get through daily life. Everyone gets depressed. We all have our bad days. Yes, but it's when bad days turn into bad weeks and bad months and bad years that they become a problem. Are you sure it's not just a phase that you're going through? If this 11-year bout of depression and anxiety is just a phase, then it sure has lasted longer than my high school trend of falling for boys who think that bitch is an acceptable word to use for women. And of course, the age-old, "there are starving children in Africa. You have it so easy." Comments like this show a fundamental misunderstanding of depression. It's a paradox of sorts because these comments simultaneously liken depression to something that's easy to get over and something that only the most miserable and underprivileged people are allowed to experience. These comments minimize depression because they suggest that you need an extreme life circumstance in order to truly be depressed, when in reality, people from all walks of life and of all backgrounds struggle with mental illness. These comments are also harmful because they make depressed people feel incredibly guilty for not being mentally healthy. A common symptom of depression for many people is feeling guilt because we don't think we're allowed to feel this way. Many depressed people recognize that their lives are more privileged than others, and not having a circumstantial reason to be depressed makes us feel even worse. One of my favorite types of comments to receive are when people tell me fun and simple ways to fix my mental illness, as if it's easy to overcome and I'm just not trying hard enough. Comments like this include phrases like, "Try not to be so negative, just focus on the positive stuff," and "Have you tried eating healthy, exercising, socializing more, etc., etc., etc." The problem with these types of comments is that they treat symptoms of depression like they're the main problem. It's essentially like telling a person who's just scraped their knee, "Well, have you tried not bleeding?" The funny thing about depression is that it makes it incredibly difficult to do the things that we know we're supposed to do, like exercising or going out with friends. We know that these things might help us out in the long run, but when depression hits, it makes these things seem literally impossible. Comments like this may come from a good place, but they're often more frustrating than they are helpful. Something that goes hand in hand with advice for fixing our mental illness is making unasked for comments about our disordered habits. Except instead of commenting on the things that you think we should be doing, you're specifically pointing out the things that we shouldn't be doing. These include comments like, "Your room is such a mess," "Why do you stay up so late or sleep so much?" "Your grades are awful. At this rate, you're gonna fail out of school." Most of the time, depressed people are already hyper-aware of their disordered habits. For many people who suffer from depression, a messy room or poor sleeping habits are a physical manifestation of the state of their mental health. I know for me personally, when my depression is bad, my sleep schedule is the first thing to suffer. Not only do I suffer from insomnia, but I also tend to end up oversleeping the next day to make up for it. The poor sleep habits in turn make my depression worse, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. However, I am probably more aware of this than any of my friends or family members who feel the need to comment on it. I know that these things are a problem, but by constantly bringing them up, it makes me feel like you're here to judge me rather than support me. Lastly, I think one of the most upsetting and insidious type of comment that I've received are statements that blame depressed people for their mental illness. These comments range anywhere from, "you're just being lazy," to "you're using your depression as an excuse not to do things." And of course, happiness is a choice. You're choosing to be this way. What makes these comments so harmful is that a lot of depressed people already blame themselves for being depressed in the first place. In the United States, the idea that happiness is something we choose is ingrained in us over and over again, everywhere from movies to television to our Catholic middle school teachers. Looking at you, Mrs. Keith. When you say things like this, you're basically saying, I know that you've told me you have a psychological disorder that you have little to no control over, but I'm just gonna tell you to suck it up and get over it anyway. You wouldn't tell someone with a disease of the body to just get over it, so why would you tell that to someone with a mental illness? Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one. Also, check out everydayfeminism.com for more awesome articles, videos, and comics that will help give you tools to learn more about social issues and to challenge everyday oppression. Last thing, this is completely voluntary, but if you would like to help support this channel and Feminist Fridays, then please consider donating to my Patreon page, which will be linked below.